Welcome to the Broker Collective podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Malone, president at HRO and the Broker Collective, and excited today to be talking with Brian Del Savio with new benefits. We've had a couple previous conversations over the past month or so, actually looking at doing some work with Brian and his company here with HRO. So just through learning, more in detail what these guys do, really excited to have him on and really just some things that if you guys are listening to some of the previous podcasts and some of our live stream content too, we talk a little bit about some of this stuff, but there are three things that I believe strongly are critical for an agency to really stand out and separate themselves, especially during this time, right? It's obviously a crowded space. There's a ton of insurance agents, but it's a hard market too, right? So it's like there's just a lot of external factors pressing in, and it's becoming increasingly difficult, I think, for agencies to really stand out and really continue to even thrive in a situation where the market is tough. But we're going to be talking a little bit about, how do you bring something different to the table? And what is that, right? And how do you even identify, what to bring to the table that's different to stand out? And really thinking about driving new revenue and protecting your book of business, right? Increasing retention. I think those three pillars are critical if you want to not just survive but thrive. But Brian, good to have you, man. Maybe just if you want to introduce yourself and new benefits for us real quick.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Marcus. Yeah, so my name is Brian Del Savio. I'm Vice President of Sales at a company called New Benefits, and we're headquartered in Dallas, Texas, but we work with agencies all across the United States. I've been doing so for 34 years, so pretty long time here in the enhanced benefit space. So really what New Benefits does is we simplify the very complex world of non-insured benefits, enhanced benefits. You may hear these benefits called point solutions. Basically all the different benefits that are out there that can really enhance whatever core insurance solutions you are providing to your clients. So there's kind of three main areas where we help with that complexity and make it very simple. Number one is New Benefits has an entire team that basically researches and vets all these different solutions in the marketplace, makes them available in one place at discounted wholesale pricing for agencies. Number two is for the actual employer groups themselves. So we can implement the benefits in just one automated file feed and invoice, no matter how many benefits the group implements. And then number three, it's going to be really more so on the member and the employee experience side of things. Those employees can access all these benefits in one streamlined membership experience in a member portal or a mobile app. So very easy for those employees to actually use the benefits throughout the year.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm pumped about it. Obviously, I think we're about to roll this out here at HRO, but we've been talking to agencies for what, 3 years or so now. We've been in these partnerships, and it's tough. A lot of folks have and rightfully so. They're worried to maybe plug something new in because they don't want to disrupt the flow of what they're already working on. They don't want to distract from their core business. And so, it's really, I think where we've had so much success with the Broker Collective and plugging in is, it's been all about simplicity. And how do you plug into an agency and allow them to start driving new revenue, not just to new clients, but to their current book of business, which is a beautiful thing, right? How do you increase profit on the current book? And how do you do these things without really having to increase your workload, right? How can I drive new revenue, bring something new, and make that something new, something that I don't have to focus a lot of time and attention on, right? Because that's where people are like, I really, I don't have time to deal with this, or I don't want to be an expert in HR and payroll or benefits offerings. Well, guess what? You don't have to, right? You don't have to be an expert. One of my partners I'd interviewed a couple times on here, I think said it best, and I forget exactly how he said it. He was like, we, as soon as we heard about the Broker Collective and what you guys were doing, he was like, I knew this is something that we wanted, that we just had to have. We were excited to do this. And he's like, we don't know anything about HR and payroll. He's like, but good news, I don't have to, because that's what you guys do, right? And that's kind of the same thing here. But something that I wanted to talk a little bit about, because this is the important piece. I think it's super important that the agencies think about doing something different, right? How can you really stand out and separate? But how do you identify what that is? right? How do you identify, what offerings to bring? And I have a few notes. So I'm looking at my phone just because I didn't want to forget. So if you take nothing else away from the conversation, I think this is super important. But, really thinking about it from, what aligns well with your current offerings, something that, like with the broker collective and HR and payroll solution that we bring, it was a natural fit with insurance brokers because they're already talking about, they're talking about insurance, they're talking about workers' comp, they're talking about things that are also offered by PEO companies who package things together and bring in the HR and payroll, right? And so naturally, you're competing against these other HR and payroll solutions that just happen to also do what you do. And so we fit right in. It was a natural fit, so how do you, does it align well with your current offering? Does it enhance or support, what you're already doing? And then, how does it, does it align well with your current target audience too, right? Is it something that's meaningful for them that will impact your target audience and gain or create a high level of interest with that audience? And how does it impact revenue and retention, right? Or does it impact revenue or retention? The way I like to look at it, ideally both. Ideally that you're bringing something new into your suite of services, it's going to impact your retention. It's going to impact your revenue. If you can line up both of those things, that's a powerful recipe. I think what you guys do, it definitely does that. As with us in the broker collective, right? We're impacting both of those areas. And the last one, and this one's super interesting, and this is why I was so excited about you guys, because it's our philosophy here, right? Like, we're big believers in simplicity. I mean, think about it. People make buying decisions today so often based on convenience, right? It's about convenience. It's about, make it easy for me, make it simple for me. Don't overcomplicate this. And so something that's simple, easy to integrate, and doesn't really add to your workload or disrupt your core business. And I think, again, with new benefits guys, it's a way to do exactly that, to bring something different to the table, a new line of benefits where whether you're a PNC agent, a benefits agent, it doesn't really matter, right? Even with us, like we're going to be offering this to HR and payroll clients. So not benefit clients, but they're an HR and payroll customer. But just the added perk, by the way, because you're a client of HRO, now you can also access this app and this suite of, solutions that you can totally customize and then, build custom packages to really speak to and attract and retain the particular demographic that client is trying to hire, and what their workforce looks like. So, I'll let you chat a little bit about it, Brian, but how do you feel, or how do you think about this kind of plugging into an agency and fitting in a way that's simple, that's easy, but also impacts revenue and retention?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what you said about, just not having to be the expert in that specific space of these non-insured enhanced benefits is so important, because I think a lot of agencies try to do that. And they do that kind of a la carte, and then they end up contracting with one vendor over here, next year another vendor over here, and then another client asks for this, and they contract over here, and everything becomes kind of all over the place. It becomes a lot of administrative burden on the agency, also on the groups as well, because then the groups start implementing these benefits kind of one off each year. Then they have different file feeds going back and forth, and different invoices coming from all these different vendors. If it's voluntary, different payroll deduction slots, and that's where things really get a mess. But the good news is, like you said, you can lean on an intermediary for these types of solutions who can really streamline things in all those areas for both the agency and for the groups very easily in a very simple way, and clean that all up in a way that's very beneficial for the agency, like you said, bringing these solutions to their clients, also increasing revenue as well if they would like to, but also for those employer groups to really reduce their administration as well, which they love being able to do. So not only for today, but also for the long term as well. I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
So now the agency knows they have basically one intermediary who they can come to lean on for all these different solutions. Speaking just about new benefits specifically, not to talk too much about new benefits, but like, for example, we just added 2 different vendors to our portfolio, whether it be Recuro for virtual primary care or Questus for financial wellness. So we're always vetting these solutions, and that takes a lot of the weight off of the agencies. And then for the groups, say next year they want to add a benefit in, they want to switch something, add a different package. Absolutely nothing changes when it comes to the existing automated file feed. It's just one file feed and one invoice. Absolutely nothing changes in the member experience except for whatever benefit was added or removed appears in their membership experience. So it's a way to really simplify that experience on all different levels,
Yeah.
and also for the long term as well.
Yeah. And it's so cool too. I mean, it's like when you think about retaining your current book and engaging your current clients, I mean, having solutions like this, it's not just about, how when renewal comes around or when you're signing a new piece of business, how can I plug this in? How do you engage your clients throughout the year in between policy renewals, right? Let's say you've got all the commercial lines, and they renew around the same time, let's say in, springtime. What about the rest of the year, right? How are you engaging with them? How are you thinking about maximizing revenue and adding value to that book of business that you already have? So when the renewal comes around, like what if, you get this big nasty renewal on the commercial? When we see this stuff all the time, I get brokers calling me up and they wait till it's too late or it's almost too late and like, oh, client's halfway out the door to paychecks or whoever, versus taking a proactive approach and saying, okay, I've worked really hard to build this book of business. I've got these wonderful clients. So how do I protect them? Right. And how can I make them more sticky? And so the more hooks I can get in, the more value I can plug in to those clients that positively impact their business, the more likely they're going to leave me when one spoke on the wheel is broken or something goes wrong. Right. And so, being able to have solutions like HRO and a broker collective and have solutions like new benefits where, during that, downtime between renewals, you can approach that current book of business with something to, for one, to stay in touch and be in front of them, but continuously offering value, right? And obviously, and also bringing something that's, innovative too. And that's the beautiful thing. You mentioned you guys have a team that's always looking, always, building and plugging in the latest and greatest, right? So the agents don't have to worry about keeping up with that stuff. That's what you guys do. So that's a beautiful thing in itself, is just knowing that, you have a partner on your side that, they're pulling their end of the weight. We're bringing the latest and greatest in HR and payroll. You're bringing the latest and greatest over here. It's like a separate division of your agency that you don't really have to think about, right? I mean, you just have to do what you do and sell the introduction essentially. And then I guess tell me about that, Brian. So let's say you guys are plugged in with an agency, they're able to offer the new benefit solution. How much, I guess, how much involvement, you know, can they expect from your team and maybe the process of selling this product into their clients? Is there support from your team on that? Or is it mostly up to the agency to kind of learn how to sell it and install it? Like, tell me a little bit about how that integration works.
Yeah, there's a ton of support in all different areas. So speaking of sales specifically, me personally, I like to actually train, obviously, the person I'm working with at the agency. Also, if there's a sales team, we'll do a broker training session as well. Sometimes I'll go out in person and meet with the agency, get them onboarded, up and running. By the way, at that point, everything will be branded to the agency. So everything is white labeled in the marketplace. So you may not have heard of new benefits before, but that's because everything is white labeled to the agency at that point. So we'll build out your marketing materials, your proposals, everything branded to the agency. At that point, we typically work with the agency to put together maybe 1, 2, or 3 packages as a starting point, which they feel would make the most sense for their target audience. But then again, like you said, we can customize the packages for every single group, how they're funded, for every single group at that point. But yeah, from a support side of things, so from a sales support side of things, oftentimes me or some of my team will even join on the first couple calls with prospects or clients, because again, like you said, they're not going to be the agents are not going to be the experts out of the gate on these solutions. So we're here to help join on sales calls. And then there's a full marketing team who's, like I said, build all the marketing materials. We have a member support team for post-enrollment support. So any questions the employees have, they would just simply call new benefits or chat with us through our chat feature. So literally, long story short, new benefits provides all the support possible, even billing and eligibility. We can handle that on your behalf as well. So collect from the groups and submit commissions to the agency. So basically everything, without being too generic, we're gonna provide the support for the agencies so they can focus on doing what they're doing best and easily bring these solutions to their clients and prospects without basically increasing their administration at all.
That's exactly right. That's awesome. That's the best part about it, man. That's what got us excited to to plug this in. I mean, it's a way to provide an enhancement, a boost, potentially a new revenue stream, but it doesn't really increase the workload from our part, which is a beautiful thing. Something else I was interested in you touching on a little bit. I think you sent over a little bit of information to me previously that made me think about this, but you guys have, I mean, there's so many different offerings that are available, in you guys' suite of services, which is awesome. Could also be overwhelming, right? And so that's where it's nice that you can kind of create these, you could a la carte things, you can kind of package the solution where maybe, you have packages where there's these 3 or 5, benefits, in a particular package. And so you could kind of have packages that are built for different size companies or different industry niches because maybe they traditionally have a different demographic of employees that are pretty consistent. Um, can you maybe touch on a few of some of the most commonly used benefits in your platform?
Sure, absolutely. So definitely a lot of requests lately for mental health benefits. And that could be all different layers as well. So, mental health is a generic term, but is
Yeah.
very customizable for specific groups and even subsets of employees as well. So again, that's where flexibility comes into play, creating a fully flexible package. It could be, a base level, self-paced kind of mental health program. It could be middle level kind of access to pure listeners or life coaches. Could be an EAP program,
Yeah.
and it could be full blown access to psychiatrists who can prescribe medications, or even in person visits as well. So you kind of see how customized that could get. But just speaking broadly, which is hard for me to do sometimes, but
Yeah.
so mental health um, is very huge right now. Advocacy and transparency type benefits, obviously. So healthcare steerage type benefits where we can load in the insurance plans into the system, and the employees will actually have access to a dedicated concierge program, essentially, where they can help the employees find the most cost effective and quality doctors, specialists,
Right.
surgeons, things like that. And then I would say family benefits. Now, all the benefits in our portfolio automatically include the immediate family, but by family benefits, I mean those type of benefits that can really come along the employees and help them with their work-life integration, I would say. We
Right.
used to call it work-life balance. Now we kind of call it work-life integration, where it's like they're full-time employees, their spouse might be working, they might have young children at home, aging adults, or both, right? Sandwich caregivers. So those
Yep.
types of solutions like caregiver concierge,
Right.
even family planning benefits like fertility. Um, and then finally, I would say it would be benefits that are not necessarily like human health benefits, but benefits like pet, all the way from just
It's
discount pet
become a big
programs,
deal.
yeah, all the way up to pet insurance. And then the financial side of things would be like ID theft protection, legal,
Yeah.
and those types of solutions as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything you just said. I mean, I've had conversations about exactly those things. At some point within the last 2 years, just being asked, ask of us or ask, from clients. I mean, obviously no surprise on the mental health front. I mean, there's so many to think about since 2020. I mean, pandemic, I mean, tremendous inflation. I mean, there's just been a lot of people don't like change as it is, right? And then you've
Yeah.
had all of these things happening, just kind of forcing change, and then remote work. And I mean, it's been a completely different dynamic and a lot of change. And so there's definitely been, I think, a rise in interest in mental health and how to address it. Um, Pet insurance thing, that's always interesting. I mean, it's super something that I never really think about until all of a sudden, your pet's having an issue. We got a 5-year-old dog and then one that's like about 15, and she's having some issues with her hips. But actually one of our employees just had some issues with the dog that she has. And I'm pretty sure she had pet insurance because yeah, we were talking about the benefits of that. But I was like, okay, wow, when you see it firsthand, it actually makes sense, like the impact it can have. I mean, vet bills are pretty expensive these days.
I mean, that's so funny, not funny actually. It's just very interesting how much we all in this space, especially on the benefit side of things, talk about the cost of healthcare and everything, that goes on with that in multiple different areas.
Yeah.
It's interesting that some surveys come out and show that people actually spend almost half, so almost 50% of people spend more each year on their healthcare costs for their pets than they do for themselves, which is actually
That's
quite
wild.
staggering. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see. I feel like that's like a newer benefit still in comparison to just benefits in general. So it'll be really interesting just to see the trend over the next decade or so, and how that space just evolves, and then costs associated evolve as well. Um, I'm sure benefits will increase, obviously, but no, I mean, that's helpful. I mean, again, there's so much, I think, just from what I've seen, that you guys have available, in the options, right? And I just love the simplicity of it. And again, that's our philosophy here at the Broker Collective, is just to make things as simple as possible. Like, how can we, in the most simplistic way possible, improve our retention, improve revenue, what current clients, and just create an advantage, right? I mean, when you have these new solutions that are kind of bolted on, and I love that you guys are really white labeled. So, I mean, it's a way, that's always our goal, is to plug into an agency and to allow them to be able to deliver HR and payroll solutions, deliver, new benefit solutions without having to really increase their workload, without having to worry about becoming an expert on something new. And in just in an easy way that, they don't even really, it feels like an extension of what they do, right? But they're not increasing their workload at the same time. So that's kind of a beautiful recipe, I think. Um, but yeah, one other thing I had that I think is important, like the revenue share possibility. So you guys talk to us a little bit about how that might look like if you guys, connect and plug into a PNC shop, for example. Now, what does that look like in terms of potential revenue share for them?
Yeah, so it's really flexible. So we have all different sorts of kind of revenue shares out there. Some agencies will provide it net of commissions. Others will add in a dollar amount or a percentage. Obviously, it's got to be approved by New Benefits within a reasonable amount, of course. And then there's also different ways the benefits can be provided, right? So it could be employer paid. So maybe you want to adjust that pricing accordingly. Some benefit and employer paid benefits probably more so. What I see is like the mental health solutions,
Yeah,
possibly, virtual healthcare, things like that, other benefits as well. But, and then it could be payroll deduction, or we even have a digital marketplace as well,
nice.
where people can go up and sign directly via debit or credit card for these solutions. So you might want to adjust pricing and commissions accordingly based on
Yeah,
that. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely the ability to create an additional level revenue stream back to the agency for as long as that business stays in the books, essentially. And it's a really nice way to, we see a lot of agencies using that to just grow their business in other areas, invest in technologies and things like that as well. So yeah, it's a nice way to bring additional solutions. By the way, bring additional solutions. When you lean on a good intermediary for these benefits, the pricing is going to be much drastically reduced based on the
right.
volume of the intermediary. So you're already bringing a better price to the client anyway. So it's not anything wrong with adding a little bit of additional revenue to the organization and agency as well, for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And tell us a little bit about just kind of the installation process. So like the timeline and the process, just high level. If an agency is like, hey, we want to set up with new benefits, what does that look like in terms of, I guess, the setup time frame?
Yeah, for new benefits, creating custom groups in our system is our bread and butter. That's what we basically have been doing for, like I said, 3 decades. So our group setup time is 2 weeks.
Nice.
But by the time we get the agreement to white labeling the mobile app member portal, sending out the membership materials to the
Yeah.
members, I mean, it's 2 weeks. For an actual implementation for the actual agency, again, it could be a lot of times 2 weeks. If we're building out like the custom direct marketplace and things like that, and
Yeah.
far we go with the market materials and things like that, it could be a month for the total white labeling of everything. But again, it's really 2 weeks is our
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I appreciate it. And we were chatting about this before the call started. I mean, this is to me, I mean, we've got 70 plus insurance partners. You guys probably have a ton. But we have these conversations with agents day in and day out. We've been in this, partnership program now for about 3 years or so with the Broker Collective. And so now you really start to see, some good stories, some good examples of the impact it can, these type of solutions can have. And did you also get to see the differences? And, when you really form relationships with some of these agencies and you get to know them, you kind of see a trend and the ones that stand out. And this is something I started noticing really a lot in the last probably 2 month period. And I've been talking a little bit about it because, we've got 70 plus partners. You've probably got 10 or so of those who actively are really engaged with us, and they're, sending us opportunities on a regular basis. it just so happens that the more engaged partners that are sending the more opportunities are also the ones that are thriving and doing the best in their own core business, And so I talked to one of my best partners, and he's like, we've grown month over month for 24 months straight, which is nuts in this hard market for the PNC space. And their retention rate is still hovering around 90%, which is amazing. And the difference to me is that the ones that are thriving, the agencies that are still, growing, they're doing better than the rest consistently. I mean, they're really positioning themselves as a resource, as a trusted advisor for their clients. The way I like to say it is they're not just the insurance guy. They're not just seeing themselves as, I'm just the insurance guy. Let me just handle the insurance piece and get out of your way. They're building relationships with their clients. They're paying attention to what's going on in their business from, an overall perspective. And so then they're able to say, what, I see a need here. I see a need here. And so that's how they create sticky relationships, because even when, they get handed a nasty renewal, it's not just like, oh my gosh, we got an increase, we got to go shop, we got to go somewhere else. It's like, look, we'll address the issue with the big renewal, obviously on the workers' comp or whatever it is, but look at everything else we do for you. Like when you're plugged in and you're a person, you're an agency that really brings value in many different areas to your client. They're not going to leave you when one peg breaks, right? When one leg of the stool breaks off, they're much less likely to leave. And so I think it's super important to really position yourself as a resource, as a trusted advisor that, when anything goes wrong or they're having a challenge in maybe just about any place in their business, maybe one of the first people they think about is you, right? They're the insurance agent. Let me call Jamie, let me call Johnny, let me call my agent, because they might, even though it's not insurance, they might be able to help me with this, because I know these guys, do all these other things. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's my favorite thing about doing what I do. I've been working directly on this side of things with agencies for about a decade now myself. And that's my favorite thing, is recognizing that, companies like HR Resources and New Benefits, just intermediaries for these types of solutions. And on your side, the HR side of things and payroll, we're not the hero. I don't ever try to be the hero, and I know you don't either. We're trying to make the agency the hero to their clients and help them, win additional business and retain their business. So when I hear stories about that, or I see our benefits helping them win business and retain business, that's what makes me happy. We're the guide in the story, right? There's a problem, and we're the guide, and then the hero is going to be the agency. And I love supporting that.
I love that. I'm going to steal that one. I like that, because that's exactly it. Like, we want to thrive behind the scenes so that, the agency looks amazing, to their client. And ultimately, the end goal for all of us is to deliver a phenomenal experience to the client, right? We don't want our client out there feeling like they need to move and shop and look for all these different solutions every year. We want them to feel like they're at home with, your agency, because, these guys have our back. They understand our business. They have us taken care of, not just with insurance, but, all these other areas. Like, this is kind of our hub where we lean on, our agency for, helping to fuel our growth and power our business. But no, man, I think this has been a great conversation. I think you gave a really good, clear overview of how you guys can integrate and plug in and really boost, again, the things I think are critical to driving growth and thriving, and that's, increasing revenue, retention, and being different. I mean, I've said this before. I'll probably say it 100 more times in podcasts and live streams. But, if I ask you, why are you different? I mean, there's a broker on every corner, right? Why are you different than the guy down the street? How are you guys any different? You should have a very clear answer. And so if you don't know the answer to that question, you really need to think hard and put it down on paper, right? Make it a part of your mission, a part of your value, a part of your mission statement. Like, what makes you guys different? You should know immediately when asked that question. Boom, here's the answer. This is why, our agency versus someone else. But Brian, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time and you sharing with us today. I enjoyed the conversation. As always, appreciate everybody listening. Marcus Malone, president at HRO and the Broker Collective. You can always find more about the Broker Collective at brokercollective.xyz. And Brian, real quick, I mean, what's you guys' website?
Yeah, it's New Benefits. So that's plural, newbenefits.com. And a
Nice.
good
You
way to
guys are on
find me would be
social?
yeah, we're all over social. But the best place to find me directly would be on LinkedIn. So just Brian Del Savio, or via email would be B like Brian Del Savio, DELSAVIO at newbenefits.com.
Awesome. Make sure to get connected with Brian. Connect with him on LinkedIn. If you're interested in this, you can reach out to me. You can reach directly out to Brian. Whatever works best for you. But make sure to continue to follow the Broker Collective. Obviously, we're on social. Keep up with us on YouTube, and then be on the lookout for the next podcast. And we'll look forward to catching you then.